Before the Grammys, Pulitzer Prize, and the Super Bowl stage, Kendrick Lamar was just a quiet kid in Compton. Not the kind of kid you'd expect to rise to rap royalty. But then again, Kendrick Lamar Duckworth has never done what people expected. This is the story of how Kendrick Lamar became not just one of the greatest rappers of his generation, but a voice that reshaped hip-hop. He was born on June 17, 1987 in Compton, California, right in the heart of South Central L.A., during a time when the city was still reeling from gang wars, police brutality, and the crack epidemic. His parents had just moved from Chicago, trying to escape the clutches of gang life. Ironically, they landed in Compton, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America at the time. His father had ties to the gangster disciples, but his mother convinced him to leave that life behind for the sake of their child. Kendrick grew up in Section 8 housing and on welfare, surrounded by violence, but also by music and a surprising sense of peace, at least inside his home. He was a quiet observer, someone who watched, listened, and took notes. That part of Kendrick, his ability to sit still, absorb his environment, and channel it later into his music, is something that would shape his entire career.
My pops, he was out, and he seen Pac and Dre shooting a video right here at the Compton Swap Meet. It just inspired me, man. That's a moment that I never forget.
One of the lesser-known moments in Kendrick's early life happened when he was just 8 years old. On a random afternoon in 1995, he stood on a sidewalk in Compton and watched Dr. Dre and Tupac Shakur film the music video for California Love. The scene burned itself into his mind. Tupac, shirtless, laughing, alive. Dre, larger than life. Kendrick later said it was like witnessing gods descend on his block. That moment ignited something in him. It was the first time he realized that storytelling could be legendary and that people from his neighborhood could make it out. Despite being surrounded by gang culture, Kendrick never officially joined a gang. He had friends and family in the Piru Bloods, and some early music references his understanding of that life, but he was always more of a documentarian than a participant. He wasn't flashy, didn't cause trouble, and was a standout student. He attended Centennial High School, the same school as Dr. Dre. And, believe it or not, Kendrick was a straight-A student. Quiet, bookish. He wrote poetry and short stories before he ever penned a rap. By the time he was 16, Kendrick had recorded his first full-length project under the name K.Dot. He passed it around Compton on CDs, and somehow it landed in the hands of Dawg Entertainment, a small, then unknown independent label in Carson. Anthony Dawg Tiffith was impressed. Here was a kid with no money, no studio time, just raw talent, and a rare ability to tell stories like he had lived 100 lifetimes.
Just get the feeling, emotions inferior. This shit is vital, I know you had to, this shit is vital.
Dawg took Kendrick under his wing where he spent years in artist development. From 2003 to 2009, Kendrick dropped mixtapes, Training Day, C4, and Overly Dedicated, each one better than the last. But he wasn't chasing fame. He was studying, refining, shaping his voice, his philosophy. And Dawg had a rule. We don't rush anything. You only get one shot. During that time, Kendrick toured as an opener for J-Rock and even Lil Wayne, who Kendrick idolized. On one occasion, Wayne invited him to the studio in Houston. Kendrick, still going by K.Dot, didn't ask for a verse or a cosign. He just watched, took notes. In later interviews, he said that watching Wayne's work ethic taught him what it meant to be prolific. In 2010, he dropped Overly Dedicated. The mixtape didn't blow up on radio, but online it caught fire. One track in particular, Ignorance is Bliss, caught the attention of none other than Dr. Dre.
Man, police radio signal saying that a 187 land on your corner. Coroners comfort your mama, he's dead the next morning. Hot toasted up with my homie.
Kendrick's verse glamorizes gang life, until the final line flips the whole narrative and reveals he's actually criticizing it. That moment convinced Dre that this kid had layers. From there, things moved fast. Kendrick began working with Dre. The cosign was everything. Dre mentored him, let him shadow sessions, introduced him to the studio magic behind the Chronic.
Dr. Dre produces your first album, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get Dr. Dre, who's probably the biggest producer? Does Dawg make the introduction?
What happens is a lot of
work prior to that makes the introduction. I put out a lot of material, me and Top Dog, just mixtapes and demos. And
Kendrick would later say Dre taught him discipline, the kind of meticulous effort that separates a rapper from a legend. In 2011, Kendrick released Section 80, technically his debut studio album, but still under the indie TDE banner. It was a deeply personal, political, conceptual record that tackled themes of addiction, institutional racism, and faith. Critics loved it. Fans started calling him the new voice of conscious rap. Then came the moment everything changed. Good Kid, Mad City in 2012. Released under Aftermath, Interscope, and TDE, it was a cinematic masterpiece. A day in the life of a teenage Kendrick trying to find his way home, literally and metaphorically, through the temptations of Compton. The album told one story, track by track, complete with voicemail skits from his parents. It was art, not just music. And it didn't sound like anything else at the time. The album went platinum. The world now knew Kendrick Lamar, not just K.Dot. But even then, he was still evolving. In 2015, he dropped To Pimp a Butterfly. It was political, funky, abstract, a radical shift from the sound of GKMC, and it wasn't made for radio. It was made for Black America. It was made for Compton. The album was recorded at the famous Chalice Studios in L.A., but also in South Africa. Kendrick visited Nelson Mandela's jail cell before writing some of the most profound verses of his career. That trip, he said, reminded him that storytelling is more than music. It's history. And in 2018, Kendrick made history again, winning the Pulitzer Prize for Music for Damn.
Awarded to Damn by Kendrick Lamar.
He was the first non-classical, non-jazz artist to ever win. Think about that. A kid from Compton, who grew up watching his heroes from the sidewalk, now sits beside literary and musical giants. In 2022, Kendrick returned after a long silence with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, a deeply introspective double album, less about the streets, more about therapy, family, and generational trauma. It was raw, uncomfortable, and brilliant. But while the album dominated conversations among critics and core fans, something else was brewing in the background, something that would explode 2 years later. By 2024, Kendrick Lamar and Drake, two of the biggest artists of their generation, were locked in one of the most intense lyrical battles in hip-hop history. It wasn't the first time they'd traded subliminals. Tensions between them had simmered for over a decade, dating back to the Control verse in 2013, when Kendrick called out nearly every top rapper by name, including Drake.
And that goes for Jamaica, Big Crit Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills, A$AP Rocky, Drake, Big Sean, J Electron, Tyler McMillan.
But what began as healthy competition finally boiled over in April 2024, when Kendrick responded to Drake directly. It started with Future and Metro Boomin's album, where Kendrick dropped the now infamous line, "F the big three, it's just big me." That shot ignited a wildfire. Drake responded. Kendrick fired back with Euphoria, a 6-minute surgical takedown that blended intellect, personal jabs, and emotional insight. He questioned Drake's authenticity, his use of ghostwriters, even his identity as a black man in hip-hop.
Master manipulator, I can smell the lines from you now. You're not a rap artist, you're a scam artist with the hopes of being accepted.
But he wasn't done. Kendrick followed with 616 in L.A., a Drake-style timestamp track that flipped the script, then dropped a nuclear bomb. Meet the Grams. A brutally calm, open letter to Drake's family, delivered with icy restraint, attacking not just Drake's persona, but the man himself. And finally, Not Like Us. The track that united the West Coast, shattered streaming records, and became an instant street anthem. Produced by Mustard, it was Kendrick's victory lap, a club banger and a diss record in one, rare, relentless, and personal. By then, the culture had decided. Kendrick hadn't just won a rap beef, he had orchestrated a masterclass in lyrical warfare.
Say, I hear you like the you better ever gonna.
But while that battle unfolded in the digital realm, Kendrick also showed up live, and on America's biggest stage.
Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back. like go. Mustard on a beat, bro. Deep bow in rap. He a freak though.
From a quiet kid in Compton, to the Super Bowl stage, to out-rapping Drake in front of the entire world, Kendrick Lamar isn't just a rapper, he's a movement, a mirror, a master of the long game. And if history has shown us anything, it's that he's not done, not even close.